If you told me back in 2014 when I started this channel that I would at any point be making a sample library from an old Soviet synthesizer, I would have laughed at you. And today it's exactly what I've done. This is the MAYHAN manual, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, Soviet synth. It's essentially a Vox organ, electric organ type of piece of kit. And you would have seen it in a lot of my videos. I was gifted this a few years ago, and I've used it on a few videos now at this stage. Now, I've done a full video on acquiring and testing out the synthesizer before I even used it on any cover, so I will put that here. You can have a look at that first if you want to see the context behind this instrument. It's got 4 octave registers, it's got a filter, high pass, low pass, and it's got a very rudimentary ADSR, which is attack, delay, sustain and release. In fact, it only has a sustain and release, so you can't change the attack or the decay. There's a very crude low frequency oscillator if you want to create a little shift in the register. So what I've done is I've sampled each note and recreated this the synthesizer as a virtual instrument. I did a lot of scripting behind the scenes just to enable the filter and a full, this time, ADSR. Anyway, enough talking, let's have a look at the manual synthesizer. So what we have here is the 4 registers that you would have on the synthesizer. So we got the bass register, and you can increase the volume of each. And the last one. So by combining them, this is where it gets interesting, or this is where it's similar to the actual synthesizer, is you get those. So by combining them in different patterns, you get those interesting and different type of sounds. If you don't want any bass, or if you just want bass and highs. And this is where the crafting starts getting interesting. Similar to the other one, I've added the sustain and release, but I also added an attack and a decay. So let me decrease all of these. We'll probably need some form of decay. So the attack will inform the engine on how quickly the volume needs to rise, as you would find in synthesizer. If you're not familiar with synthesizers in general, maybe look up ADSR and how it works. But attack actually is the initial increase of the sound to reach maximum volume. So this is instant, and this takes much longer. You get the idea roughly. The decay is how quickly after that volume the sound is going to start getting lower and lower, and at what level it's going to stabilize. This is your sustain. So you can hear that initial rise, decrease, and it sustains. So it's more obvious if we increase the attack. And the release is what happens when you release the key. Does the sound stop abruptly, or does it sustain for a few extra milliseconds or seconds longer? So this is where the crafting starts getting interesting. Before I go to these individual ADSR, let me just go over the panning as well. The panning will actually force one channel to go right or left. So that way we can actually create a more interesting soundscape, you know, and widen our sound in general. So we don't need to be as... we can be a lot more subtle, but just to add a little panning into our sound. Then we can fine tune each individual register as well. Very often in synthesizer and synthesis, you will find some amount of detuning, very slight detuning, just to widen the sound in general. And it just helps make the sound a bit more, I was going to say dissonant, but a bit more interesting and wider in general. So that's something that is not in the original, neither is the panning. And the filter, instead of having a global filter, I decided to add just an individual filter on each of the registers. That filter just affects just the bass register, and just toy around with the other one just to have. And suddenly we have a much more interesting sound that is not quite an organ anymore, but starts getting into sound synthesis. And this is this last bit where I think the genuine interest of this sample library specifically lies, is we can set the ADSR, so for each register. So here we can actually increase the attack for the bass register. So now our note is going to be played and the bass is going to slowly increase while the other ones are triggered immediately or to the level of the global ADSR. So you can hear that bass rising. What happens if I want the fourth register here to linger for a bit longer? So we hear that register just linger, and only that register. So it makes things a lot more interesting, and we can do the same with the various levels. This can rise to a maximum and just sustain. At a much lower level, we can have just maybe a slight attack on this guy. No sustain at all on this. Maybe it can rise a little bit. Yeah, there you go. We can hear just in the background. So straight away, it makes for a much more interesting sound. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is there's, of course, a reverb like the other one, a convolution reverb using my own sample as impulse response. The first one, I think, is a thread rod that is going over the string of one-man banjo. It's a very sort of gritty, aggressive sort of sound, but it creates, as an impulse response, those sort of a sparkling little elements. You'll see what I mean. I absolutely love this sound. The second one is my hand going over the skin of the banjo that I use as a crash cymbal in most of my covers. And the last one is, again, that large sheet of metal. I love this. I absolutely love this sound. I'm going to use it in every single sample library that I can think of, because it just creates such a nice atmospheric ambience. But you can also mix and combine them. As you please. So you can actually have all three reverbs together for just a big wide sound. And if you add something like an attack. Anyway, folks, this is it. This is the MAYHAN or Manual Soviet synthesizer sample library. I think it's actually much more versatile than this one. This is now available on PianoBook for free. You can download it for free. You can use it forever as long as you want for free. There is the option to tip, and I would very much appreciate your support. This was a lot more work than the previous one, and I expect the next one will be even more work. But anyway, you can download it. Go to PianoBook. I will put the link in the description. It's entirely carefully to use and download. It's my gift to the community. I wanted to share this instrument and make it available. I don't think it has been available as a library before, so this is the first time. And I would love if you get to use it, and if you send me your mixes with it. I would very much appreciate that. I'll reshare them everywhere I can. But folks, enjoy, have fun, happy music with it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.